The frozen night, the night was cruel. The wind moved like sharp knives across the empty land, cutting through skin and bone. Snow fell without mercy, covering the broken ground in a heavy blanket of white. In that endless cold, a small figure walked slowly, her feet sinking into the frozen earth. She was not human. Her skin carried a pale blue shade, her thin arms trembling as if each step might be her last. Her clothes were torn, almost nothing left to protect her from the storm. The cold had no pity, and neither did her fate. She was lost. She was broken, and she had no hope. Her breaths came out like smoke, weak and uneven. Each breath felt heavier than the last. She wanted to stop walking, to lie down in the snow, to let the night swallow her whole. Maybe it would be easier than fighting. Maybe no one would even notice if she disappeared forever. But somewhere deep inside, a soft spark refused to die. Her eyes, tired and wet with tears, searched the darkness. She did not know what she was searching for. Maybe warmth. Maybe safety. Maybe someone who cared. But her heart whispered the truth. No one was coming. The stars above shone cold, far away, like silent watchers who would not help. The world had abandoned her. Her people were gone, her home destroyed, her voice unheard. She felt smaller with every step, as if she was nothing more than a shadow in the snow. Then she heard it. Footsteps. At first, she thought it was only the wind playing tricks with her ears. But the sound grew louder. Heavy, steady, firm. Someone was walking not far behind her. Fear shot through her weak body and she froze. Her heart pounded fast. Could it be soldiers, hunters? Enemies who wanted to finish what fate had already started? If they caught her, she would not survive. She turned her head slowly. Through the falling snow, a tall shape moved closer. The figure was wrapped in thick clothing, heavy boots pressing into the ice. His steps were strong, unlike her fragile ones. The moment she saw the face beneath the hood, her heart shook. A human. She had heard stories of humans before. Some stories said they were cold and ruthless. Some said they did not care about creatures like her. Others whispered that humans were dangerous, willing to destroy anything that stood in their way. The fear in her chest grew stronger. She stepped back quickly, her thin body trembling. Her bare feet slipped on the ice and she almost fell. The human stopped walking. He did not come closer. For a long moment there was only silence between them, broken by the howl of the wind. He looked at her. She looked at him. Two strangers under a merciless sky. The human's eyes narrowed slightly, but not with anger. He was studying her, perhaps trying to understand what she was. His hands stayed still at his sides, showing no weapon, no threat. Yet she did not trust him. Why would she? Trust was a gift she could not afford. The cold pushed harder against her skin and her legs began to shake. She hugged herself, but her body would not stop trembling. She could barely stand now. Her strength was slipping away. The human finally moved. Slowly, carefully, he reached into his heavy coat. She gasped and stepped back again, certain he was pulling out something dangerous. But instead of a weapon, he pulled out a thick blanket, dark, heavy, and warm-looking. He held it in his hand, not throwing it, not forcing it, only holding it out for her to see. Her breath caught. She did not know what to do. The human did not speak. His lips stayed closed as if words were unnecessary. The only sound was the wind and the faint crack of ice under their feet. She shook her head weakly. She wanted to run. She wanted to escape, but her body refused. Her legs were too weak, her energy too low. She stayed frozen where she stood. The human lowered the blanket to the ground and stepped back. He left it there halfway between them. Then he waited, her eyes widened. No one had ever given her a choice before. No one had ever left something for her without asking for something in return. Was this real? Or was it a trick? Minutes passed, long and heavy. She stared at the blanket, then back at the human. His face remained calm, his eyes steady. The snow gathered around his boots, but he did not move. He was waiting for her decision. Her chest rose and fell fast. She felt the pain in her bones, the fire of the cold eating her alive. Slowly, painfully, she took one small step forward, then another. Her body shook with every move, but she did not stop. Finally, she bent down and touched the blanket. It was warm, even through the snow. She pulled it to her chest and wrapped it around her trembling body. The warmth was so sudden, so deep that her eyes filled with tears. When she looked back up, the human was still standing there. He did not smile. He did not speak. But in his silence, she felt something she had not felt in a very long time. Hope. For the first time in what felt like forever, she was not completely alone. The night was still frozen. The world was still cruel. But maybe, just maybe, this human was different. The human's choice. The storm raged harder. Snow whirled around like 1,000 sharp blades, but still the human stood, watching the fragile alien girl huddled in the blanket. She was shaking less now, but her eyes showed fear more than gratitude. For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence was heavy, filled only with the sound of the wind. The human finally bent down, striking flint against stone. A small spark lit, and then fire bloomed in the night. The flames cracked against the cold, spreading warmth in a circle of golden light. The girl gasped and stepped back. Fire meant danger. Fire meant traps. She had been hunted before, forced into shadows. Her heart whispered that this could be the same. An illusion to make her lower her guard. The human sat near the fire, not looking at her, not demanding anything. His hands were stretched toward the flames, his breath calm and steady. He looked almost tired, as if he had fought many nights like this before. The girl's eyes darted to the fire, then to the man, then back again. Her stomach twisted painfully. She had not eaten in days. Hunger clawed at her from inside, louder now that she felt a little warmth. As if reading her thoughts, the human reached into his pack. He pulled out a piece of bread, thick and rough, and placed it on a flat stone near the fire. He did not push it toward her. He did not even look at her. He only left it there, her body tensed. Why was he doing this? Humans never gave without taking. That was what she had been taught. That was what she had seen. Her mind screamed, "Don't trust him," but her body begged for food. The wind roared, and she hugged the blanket tighter around her thin shoulders. The firelight touched her pale blue skin, making her look fragile, almost ghostly. The human spoke at last. His voice was deep but calm, not harsh. "You'll die if you stay out there." The girl froze. The words were simple, but they carried weight. She wanted to reply, to tell him she didn't care, that her life was already broken, but no sound came. Her throat was too dry, her courage too weak. He did not press her. He only added more wood to the fire and waited, her eyes locked on the bread again. The smell reached her nose, soft and warm. Her legs trembled, carrying her one step closer, then another. Each step felt like a battle between trust and fear. Finally, she crouched near the stone, snatched the bread, and retreated quickly like a frightened animal. She tore into it with shaking hands, her mouth too hungry to care about manners. The human said nothing. He only watched the flames, but in his silence there was no cruelty. No trap, no laughter at her weakness. It was as if he wanted her to choose for herself. Her mind raced. Who was he? Why help her? Then faintly she heard something behind them, a sound, a crack in the snow. Her head shot up, eyes wide. The human noticed it too. His body stiffened, hand going slowly to the knife at his belt. He glanced at the shadows beyond the fire. The girl's blood turned to ice. She knew that sound. Hunters. Her hands gripped the blanket tightly, her heart thundering in her chest. If the hunters saw her, it would be over. They never left survivors. The human's eyes shifted toward her. In that brief second, she saw something strange in his gaze. Not fear, not hesitation, but decision. He leaned forward, voice low but firm. "Stay close to the fire. Don't move," her breath caught. Did he mean to protect her, or was he handing her over? The crunch of snow grew louder. Shadows moved beyond the edge of the firelight. The human rose to his feet, his figure tall against the flames. The knife glinted in his hand. He stood like a wall between her and the darkness, as if daring whatever was out there to come closer. The girl's body shook. She wanted to run, to escape, but her legs refused. Something in her heart whispered, "Wait, watch, trust." The shadows shifted again. Then silence. The wind howled, but no figure stepped into the light. Whoever was out there had vanished. The human did not lower his knife. He waited still and sharp until minutes passed and the night grew quiet again. Finally, he sat back down, placing the blade beside him. His eyes met hers for the first time, steady and clear. "You don't have to trust me," he said softly, "but I won't let them take you." The words struck her deeper than the cold ever could. She felt something break inside her walls, something she had built to survive. For the first time, she wondered if this human was different from the stories. She hugged the blanket closer, her eyes wet. She did not speak, but in her silence, her heart whispered a truth she could not deny. Maybe she was not alone anymore. A promise in the darkness. The fire cracked softly, sparks flying upward into the black sky. The alien girl sat curled in the blanket, her thin frame trembling less now, yet her eyes stayed fixed on the human, as if every movement of his hand might decide her fate. The bread was gone. Hunger no longer clawed at her stomach, but another hunger remained, something deeper. A hunger for safety, a hunger for trust. The human sat across from her, the fire's glow painting his face in gold and shadow. He looked calm, but his knife rested at his side, ready. His silence was heavy, almost protective. Finally, she found her voice. It came out as a whisper, weak and cracked. "Why?" The human lifted his eyes to her. "Why what?" Her throat burned, but she forced the words out. "Why help me? I am nothing. Not your kind. Not worth saving." The human's jaw tightened. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, with a low voice that carried more weight than the storm, he answered, "No one deserves to die alone in the snow." Her heart skipped. His words were simple, yet they carried warmth no blanket could give. But the warmth quickly faded when she remembered the shadows in the night. She hugged the blanket tighter. "They will come back," she whispered. "They always come back. If they find me," her voice broke, "you will die too." The human leaned closer, the fire reflecting in his eyes. "Then let them come." Her breath caught. He spoke with such certainty, such defiance, as if the hunters were nothing more than shadows to be burned away. She had never heard words like that spoken for her. Still, fear pressed against her chest. "You don't understand. They do not stop. They do not forgive. If they know you protect me, then I protect harder." The words silenced her. For the first time, she truly looked at him, not just as a human, not just as a stranger, but as something unshakable. His eyes were not cold, not cruel. They were steady, like stone standing against the storm. Her tears fell quietly, disappearing into the blanket. She whispered, almost to herself, "I lost everything. My family, my people, all gone. I have nothing left." The human's gaze softened. He leaned forward, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "You have something now." Her head lifted. "What?" "Me." Her breath froze. Those words, so small, felt larger than the storm around them. No one had ever claimed her before. No one had ever said she had anything worth keeping. The fire flickered as if listening. The world outside was cold and endless, but here, inside the circle of light, something powerful had been born. But then, a scream. It ripped through the night like a blade, sharp and terrifying. The girl's blood turned to ice. She knew that sound too well. A hunter's cry echoing through the storm. The human stood instantly, knife in hand. His body became a wall again, solid and unshakable. He scanned the darkness, eyes sharp. The girl's heart pounded. She gripped the blanket so tightly it nearly tore her. "They found me," she whispered, terror choking her voice. "They're coming." The human did not turn. His voice was low, steady, and full of iron. "Then stay behind me." Her whole body shook. She had never heard anyone say such words to her. No one had ever stood in front of her before, always behind, always abandoning, always betraying. But this human, he was different. The scream came again, closer. Snow crunched under many feet. Shadows moved at the edge of the firelight. The girl pressed herself closer to the flames, her eyes wide with fear. Her mind screamed to run, to escape, to disappear before the hunter struck. But her heart clung to his words. "You have something now." The human raised his knife, standing tall against the darkness. The firelight danced across his face, making him look like a figure carved from stone, unbreakable, unstoppable. And then, for the first time in her life, the alien girl whispered words she never thought she would say. "I trust you." The human's head tilted slightly. His grip on the knife tightened. His voice came deep and certain, like a vow carved into the earth. "Then you are safe. Forever." The hunter's shadows moved closer, their voices rising like a storm. But the girl no longer felt only fear. For the first time in her life, she felt something stronger. Hope. Shadows of danger. The fire burned bright, but beyond its glow, the night was alive with movement. The hunters were close. Their guttural cries echoed through the storm, harsh and merciless. The alien girl clutched the blanket, heart thundering in her chest. Her breaths came fast, fogging in the cold air. Every instinct screamed, "Run, hide, disappear." But the human stood tall, knife in hand, his body a shield between her and the approaching shadows. The firelight carved sharp lines across his face, showing not fear, but resolve. The first shadow appeared. A tall figure, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Then another, then more. Shapes moved, circling the fire like wolves around prey. The girl whispered, voice shaking, "There are too many. You cannot fight them." The human didn't move. His voice came out steady, almost calm. "I don't need to fight them all. I only need to make them doubt." Her eyes widened. Doubt? Against hunters who never stopped? Who killed without hesitation? She thought it impossible. But then the human did something she didn't expect. He kicked snow over part of the fire, dimming the flames until only a faint glow remained. The shadows thickened, the hunters shifting uneasily. They were creatures of dominance, used to chasing fear. But now the human turned the darkness into his weapon. "Stay low," he whispered to the girl. "Don't make a sound." She dropped to the ground, pressing herself into the snow. Her body shook, but her eyes never left him. The hunters stepped closer, growling low. One snarled words in a rough voice, pointing toward the girl. Her heart stopped, they knew. They wanted her. The human raised his knife, the steel catching the faint light. His voice carried across the night. "She is under my protection." The hunters paused. Even in the storm, the authority in his tone struck hard. They did not expect defiance. Not from a human, but their hesitation lasted only a moment. With a scream, the first hunter lunged forward. The human moved like lightning. He sidestepped, blade flashing, cutting across the attacker's arm. The creature roared, stumbling back into the snow. The girl gasped, covering her mouth to keep silent. Her heart pounded, fear and awe mixing like fire in her chest. More hunters closed in. The human swung again, sharp and precise, forcing them to keep their distance. He wasn't reckless. Every move was controlled, as if he had fought monsters before. But there were too many. Shadows pressed closer, their teeth bared, their claws glinting in the dim light. The girl's body trembled. She wanted to scream, to run, but her voice was trapped in her throat. She whispered to herself, "He will die for me. He will die because of me." Then one hunter broke through the circle, rushing toward her, his claws raised high. The girl's scream tore through the night. Before the claws struck, the human lunged, slamming his shoulder into the attacker's chest. They both crashed into the snow, rolling hard. The human's knife plunged down, and the hunter let out a final cry before falling still. Silence. For a moment, the other hunters froze, their glowing eyes locked on the fallen one. Doubt flickered in their movements. Fear crept into their voices. The human rose, breath heavy, knife dripping. His voice thundered through the storm. "Whoever comes next dies the same." The hunters shifted, their circle breaking. Murmurs spread among them. They had expected easy prey. Instead, they had found a predator. Slowly, one by one, they retreated into the dark. Their shadows melted back into the storm, their cries fading into the distance. The night grew quiet again. Only the wind and the crackle of the weak fire remained. The girl was frozen, tears streaming down her face. She stared at the human, blood on his hands, firelight in his eyes, and felt something she had never known before. Safety. He walked back to her, his steps heavy in the snow. He crouched, lowering the knife. His voice was soft now, almost gentle. "They won't return tonight. Not after this." Her lips trembled. You risked everything. For me." The human's gaze held hers, steady and unshakable. "I already told you. You're not alone anymore." Her tears fell harder, but this time they weren't only from fear. For the first time in her life, the darkness didn't feel endless, because someone had chosen her, because someone had stood against the shadows, because someone had whispered, "Forever safe." Forever safe, the storm raged on. Snow spun in wild circles, as if the sky itself wanted to bury the world in silence. But within that frozen night, two figures remained. One fragile and trembling, the other standing tall, knife still shining faintly in the firelight. The hunters had fled. For now. But both the human and the alien girl knew the truth. Retreat was never the end. Hunters always returned, stronger, angrier. The girl's hands shook as she pulled the blanket tighter. Her voice cracked. "They'll come back. Not tonight, but they will. They don't stop until their prey is gone. And now they'll hunt you too." The human crouched, meeting her eyes. His breath came heavy, mist curling in the freezing air. "Then let them come," he said. "Every night if they must. I'll still be here." Her chest ached. No one had ever said such words to her. No one had ever chosen her against danger. But before she could answer, a distant horn, her blood turned to ice. That sound was worse than screams. It was a call, a signal, a promise of many more. The human's jaw tightened. He glanced at the fire, then at her. They're gathering. This place is no longer safe, the girl's heart hammered. Where will we go? There's no shelter, no. There is me. He cut in, his voice sharp, steady, unshakable. Stay close. Trust me, the horn sounded again, closer. Shadows appeared in the storm, dozens now. Red eyes glowed through the snow, circling fast. The ground trembled with their march. The girl's breathing broke into sobs. It's too many. You can't fight them all. The human pulled her closer, his arm firm around her shoulders. His voice lowered like steel whispered in the dark. Then I'll fight until my last breath, because you're safe with me. Her tears fell hot against the cold air. For the first time, she didn't feel like prey. She felt like someone worth protecting. The hunters surged forward, screaming war cries that split the storm. The circle closed fast. The human threw more snow onto the fire, killing the light. Darkness swallowed them, but he did not falter. His grip tightened on the knife. His other hand pressed against her back, steadying her. Run when I say, he whispered. But she shook her head violently. No, if you stay, I stay. I will not leave you. His eyes met hers, glowing faintly in the moonlight. And in that single look, a vow was sealed. The first hunter lunged, but the human struck quick, blade slicing through the dark. Another came, and he drove his shoulder into its chest, sending it crashing back. Blood stained the snow, steam rising from it in the bitter cold. The girl cried out as more shadows closed in. The human fought like a storm himself, sharp, relentless, unyielding. His breath roared in the night. Every strike was a wall between her and death, but the hunters were endless. For every one that fell, two more came. The girl's heart twisted. She could not only watch. She tore a sharp shard of ice from the ground, her hands bleeding as she gripped it. Fear still chained her, but something stronger broke through. Hope. When a hunter broke past the human, rushing for her, she stabbed wildly. The shard sank deep. The creature screamed, collapsing in the snow. Her hands shook, but her spirit did not. The human glanced back for only a second. Their eyes met. Pride flickered in his, even as blood ran down his cheek. You're stronger than you know, he said, his voice fierce even in the chaos. The hunters howled again, circling tighter. But now there was fire not only in the human's eyes, but in hers too. Together they stood back to back. Human and alien, fragile and strong, broken and unbroken. And when the hunters rushed in one last time, both screamed, not in fear but in defiance. Steel clashed. Blood spilled. The storm swallowed everything. When silence finally returned, bodies lay scattered in the snow. The girl trembled, chest heaving, blood staining her hands. She looked at the human, wounded, exhausted, but alive. He fell to one knee, breath ragged. She rushed to his side, holding him with all the strength she had left. You'll die, she whispered, her tears falling fast. But he smiled faintly, voice low, every word a vow. No, not while you need me. Her arms tightened around him. For the first time in her life, she wasn't cold. Not inside, the storm still howled. The world was still dangerous. But in his arms, with his promise echoing in her heart, she finally believed the words he had spoken. You are safe. Forever. And in that frozen night, where once she had been nothing, she became something more. Not alone. Not broken. Not lost, forever safe.